will now come to order. Welcome to the October 2nd, 2025 meeting of the City of Raleigh Design Review Commission. My name is Kyle Springer, Vice Chair of this commission, acting as chair for the day. The Design Review Commission is a public body appointed by the City Council that exercises both advisory and quasi-judicial functions. The Commission's responsibilities relate to zoning and other land use matters, as well as the visual quality and aesthetic characteristics of the city. Today's agenda includes requests for design alternates from the city's Unified Development Ordinance. When hearing requests for design alternates, the commission sits as a quasi-judicial body and conducts an evidentiary hearing on the request. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this commission must make its decisions. The commission's decisions are constrained by the standards in the city's ordinance and the facts presented at the hearing. The commission hears and considers evidence presented at the hearing and applies to the standards set forth in state law and the city's ordinance. The commission must base its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence presented at the hearing. If you are speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not your personal preferences or opinion. The meeting is open to the public and everyone is welcome to watch. However, participation in the evidentiary hearing is limited. Parties have the rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Witnesses must testify to the facts to which they are competent to testify, so long as those facts relate to the legal standards. In addition, lay or non-expert witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, the City Commission needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. Those topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections on impacts on traffic safety. All right, we'll call our first case to order. Starting with DA 8, 2025 on today's agenda. Keegan McDonald will introduce the hearing. And before you start, let me please swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is DA 2025. The subject property is 6011 Chapel Hill Road. Here is an aerial image of the property. So there are some existing improvements on site, sort of an L-shaped lot with frontage along Chapel Hill Road. And the zoning is industrial mixed use 3, parking limited frontage. What's being proposed is a 3,634 square foot building addition to an existing data storage facility. You can see that marked in red on the image to the right. And the design alternate request relates to the screening of roof-mounted equipment. So UDO section 725D2 has a few standards related to roof-mounted equipment and particularly the screening. So roof-mounted equipment shall be screened from ground level view from adjacent property or adjacent public street right-of-way, not including an alley. New buildings shall provide a parapet wall or other architectural element that screens roof-mounted equipment from view. So in this instance, they're proposing a parapet wall that will be slightly shorter in this case than would otherwise be required based upon the standards in 725D2. Here is just an image of the existing facility and also the self-support tower on site and a rendering of the addition plus the proposed parapet wall. And here are the findings for this particular section of the UDO. So the approved alternate needs to be consistent with the intent of the landscape and screening regulations. It should not substantially negatively impact the comfort and safety of pedestrians. Should utilize other architectural, artistic, or landscaping treatments to create visual interest, and the approved alternate should be considered equal to or better than the standard. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. If not, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, the applicant will now present evidence and legal arguments in support of the request. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards. Before you begin, can you state for the record your name, address, in relation to the case?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Molly Stewart, Morningstar Law Group, 434 Fayetteville Street, here on behalf of the applicant American Tower. I do have 2 witnesses with me today, and I'd like to get them sworn in as well.
All right.
Come on up. So we have Scott Fletcher and Greg Mercier of American Tower. I'd like to have them both sworn in. Scott is an in-house engineer as well, so I will also ask him to provide his qualifications and experience and role in the project as well.
All right. Please state your name, address in relation to the case.
Yeah, so I'm Scott Fletcher. Address of my office is 1 Fenton, Maine in Cary, North Carolina. And I'm one of the engineers that is working on this project.
All right. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And if I may ask you to do the same, state your name, address in relation to the case, please.
Sure. Greg Mercier from American Tower Corporation, 10 Presidential Way, Woburn, Massachusetts. I work internally on zoning for this project.
All right. And do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher, could you please provide us with your education, any certifications, qualification, and role in this matter?
Yes, so I was educated at NC State, graduated in 2011 with a degree in civil engineering. Following graduation, I worked in consulting for about 6 years, mostly in telecom, developing sites for cell towers. The past 8 years, I've been at American Tower doing the same and working on facilities like this one here, the new development and ongoing maintenance of them. So.
Thank you. I'd like to tender Mr. Fletcher as an expert witness in civil engineering.
So noted.
Thank you. I have a few handouts for you as well today before we get started. These are things that we'll be discussing during the presentation. All right, so the handouts that are going around, there are a few different things. There's a property card for the building next door, just so you can confirm the type of use happening there. There's also a specification for the louvers that are proposed, as well as a cross-section showing some topography on the site. So these will all be part of the presentation as well. And with that, before jumping into the design alternate standards, I do want to provide a bit of additional context. Now, you saw the location and the general shape of the property there, located between Chapel Hill Road and Hillsborough Street. So in the aerial, we can see better the industrial character of the surrounding area. The building that we're discussing is in this area. So as you can see, although this is the most recent aerial available, it is not actually up to date. So there is an existing facility in this location, and it's the addition that we're talking about today. The rooftop equipment would be visible only from the property immediately to the east, and not from any public right-of-way, for example. And I'll just note, among the handouts that you have, the property card for this property over here, and that confirms that it is Flex Warehouse, just so that you have that use. This is the overall site layout. We're going to zoom in on the area that is outlined in red. And here you can see the split between the existing data storage facility as well as the proposed addition. So the next slide after this one will show the view from that adjacent parking lot. So I wanted to give you some context for that view. And here the red arrow on the site highlights the approximate location of that view and the direction. So it'll be looking south. I do want to highlight this small white building in this location, if you can see that, because you will see that in the picture as well. So here we're looking south as though we've turned into that neighboring driveway. And on the right, you can see the self-support tower that was mentioned that is on the site. So generally, it's the area behind that small white structure that is where the data center is located. And this is the view, the current view, from that parking lot. So looking up, and here you get a better sense of the terrain in the area. This is a simulated photo showing what is proposed. And so over here on the left, you can see the addition as well as the rooftop equipment and the screening that is proposed. And here I want to pause because we are actually reducing the request that was made. So initially it was thought that that screening would be 3 feet 5.5 inches tall, and in fact we've been able to increase that to 5 feet 1 inch. So we are actually reducing the amount of alternate that we're looking for down to 1 foot 7.5 inches. Is that right? Thank you. And with that background, I will jump into the 4 design alternate standards. The first is that the alternate is consistent with the intent of those landscaping and screening regulations. And the stated intent of those regulations is to provide for meaningful and well-designed screening and buffering. So here we have an elevation, and I've dropped in these red lines just to delineate some different sections of the building. And here I will invite Scott Fletcher up to tell us what we're looking at here. This is the view of the full structure as well as the rooftop equipment straight on. So Scott, if you can describe for us, show us where is grade, what is the height of the building, the height of the equipment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this is in the east elevation is viewed from the abutter's property. Starting at grade, there is going to be a roughly 6 foot 1 inch foundation wall that will protrude up. On top of that, the building will be placed with a peak roof height of 14 foot 9 inches, and then the top of the screen wall will be at 19 foot 10 above grade.
So to zoom in on that simulated photo of the proposed situation, here we can see a little bit better the screening that is proposed. Pardon me, and that it is meaningfully screening that rooftop equipment, so really just leaving a small amount still visible at all. And in addition, you see the trees there as well. There are some additional arborvitae that are proposed to help screen that as well. I will note that even in this simulated photo, these are still not full grown, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So the screening that is provided is especially meaningful due to the grade in this area. And here you can see in this section of the neighboring site, there is significant grade. You saw a photo of that earlier. And to zoom in, you can see that the property line between these two parcels is approximately 14 or 15 feet higher than the parking lot itself, where we would have the pedestrians' view being impacted. And this is a better way to see that difference, particularly looking at that grade in comparison with the height of the cars that are there in the parking lot. Finally, with respect to the quality of that screening, you have the full specification in your handouts for the louvers that are proposed, providing that visual block for most of the height of that rooftop equipment. And to move on to the second standard, it requires that the approved alternate does not substantially negatively impact the comfort and safety of pedestrians. This is a difficult one only because there will be so few pedestrians impacted. It's truly just those few in the parking lot, and we actually haven't been able to identify an impact on either their comfort or their safety in this area. The only impact being that small visual change, which by comparison will be quite minor compared to the large tower that is immediately behind that building and really dominating that view. The third standard is that the approved alternate utilizes other architectural, artistic, or landscaping treatments in order to create visual interest, and we have already seen that proposed landscaping, which will provide a bit more detail. Now, I do want to, we have that coming up again. I'll show you a bit more on that. So with respect to this landscaping, Greg, can you come up and tell us about those existing arborvitae and how they will help to screen this area?
Sure. So what you see right now is a view of the facility as it currently stands. We started construction on this facility about a year ago. and completed this past April when the arborvitae that you see here were planted. So these are very young arborvitae planted about 6 months ago at 10 feet on center. And so those obscure the fence and data center facility from the property to the east. And then, sorry, to go on to the next one. There we go. And this is the photo simulation, which we previously showed. So you can see the expanded data storage facility to the south. And we proposed under our SPR under review to extend the arborvitae to create more of a visual barrier. And what we actually showed here is increasing the plantings of arborvitae, so essentially doubling how many there are per linear foot. So here they're spaced 5 feet on center. So this creates more of a visual barrier from that separate property.
Did you say how tall the trees
Oh,
will be?
sorry. And so the arborvitae, again, well, these here are photo simulations with the existing ones. The existing ones, which again are 6 months old, are not at full maturity, but when they are, they'll grow up to 30 feet. And so those would fully be to the height of the proposed roof-mounted equipment.
Thank you. Oh, Greg, we actually have one more slide. Did you want to add anything?
Apologies. Yeah.
That's all right.
So this here is a markup of our plan. You can see the arborvitae. Those are the green hollow circles here, spaced 5 feet on center. And then in between, you can see kind of more of a filled-in green dot, and that's holly. And so that will just create visual interest, obscure more of the fence and what's behind it from the neighboring property.
Thank you. So our final standard is that the approved alternate is considered equal to or better than the standard. So as we've seen, the reduced parapet height will have a minimal impact on pedestrians using that neighboring parking lot, and that's due to several different factors. One, significant high-quality screening is provided. Additional landscaping is provided. The effectiveness of those measures is increased by the grade in this area as well. This equipment cannot be seen from any public right-of-way nor any other parcel, and this building and rooftop equipment are also located immediately in front of this 195-foot tower, limiting any additional visual impact that this might have. So given this minimal impact, the team felt that the improvement in the proportionality of the building as well as function were an improvement on the standard as written. Now to say more about the improvement in function, I'd like to invite Scott Fletcher back up to tell us about that.
Yeah, so the real reason for the request has to do with, first, the mechanical equipment that's on the roof. There's chillers and condensers, and in order to function properly, they need proper airflow. So decreasing the height of that wall will allow those to function properly. And in addition to the higher wall was going to be putting increased stresses on the rest of the building frame. So at this height, with how it's currently designed, it can support those forces. So.
Thank you. Having addressed all 4 of the design alternate standards, our team is available to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak? All right. Hearing none. Are there any questions from the commission to the applicant?
I think I've got a couple. So the property immediately to the north of the addition, I think it showed Metrip Productions in one of the slides that you showed. Can you talk about the topography between the where Metrip Productions is versus the site for the addition?
I'll let Scott Fletcher discuss the topography. I just wanted to quickly mention, is this the property kind of sandwiched between ours to the north there? Yeah. So just as some background, we actually, American Tower actually purchased that property within the last 2 months. So just to let you know, that is under our ownership as well, and probably in the near future, we're going to do a lot recombination to combine it with this parcel.
Yeah, and just to kind of walk through the grades that you see here, that the slope from our property back down to Chapel Hill Road is approximately the same as the front side of the parcel that you can see on the left side of the screen there. So water flows this direction.
Gotcha. Okay. And just to reiterate what I heard about the screening, so you said you went from 3'5" to 5'1", but 5'1" was kind of the max you could do before the stresses on the structure became too much, where you had to.
Yeah, that's my understanding after speaking with the structural engineer that's running the project. So,
Okay.
so
And-
yeah.
And I guess the projects that I've done in the past, usually it's more a matter of how much distance you've got between the equipment and the screen wall itself, not necessarily. Once you get to a certain height, it affects the airflow around the equipment no matter what. How far back does the equipment sit from the screen wall?
Well, it depends on the unit we're talking about. I'm not sure if we have that shown here, but
I don't know if it's dimensioned.
Is it dimensioned?
After your best image, this one.
Yeah, it is not fully dimensioned, but you can see the unit here is very close to the screen wall, and these sit back a bit further. It looks to be about approximately 5 to 6 feet.
Okay. And that rendering that you had from the lower parking lot, the adjacent property, is pretty accurate, so you will be able to see the tops of the equipment over the screen wall?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Keegan, can you help me out? Can you speak to the fact that they've acquired the property to the north and plan to recombine it with this property? I guess, are we supposed to take that property to the north into account?
I don't know that I can answer that. I don't have background on the property to be recombined. As to whether it can be taken into consideration, I think I would defer to the commission's attorney.
Yeah, I mean, it's an adjacent property, so yes, you take it into consideration.
Take it into consideration, but is there any consideration that this property owner has purchased that property as well?
Not necessarily. You're applying the standard, and the standard has to do with visibility.
Okay.
So to that extent, you would take the property into consideration. Is this screened from the adjacent property?
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was it.
Any other questions
Yeah, I
from the
got one.
commission?
For the landscape screen, is there any conflict or restriction that would stop you from putting in a taller tree with the canopy on it? Any like utility conflicts or any of that equipment on the roof?
I did want to clarify as well that this equipment would only be visible from the eastern property, not the northern property.
The only conflict that I can think of is that this area here is our fire apparatus road, and so depending on the height of the truck that would come through, it would need to remain clear for it, so.
Thanks. That was it.
Any others? Hearing no additional questions or presentation of relevant facts, the commission will now close the hearing and bring the matter to the table. As a reminder, this commission is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented, this proposal meets the applicable standards. The decision cannot be based on personal preference of commission members. Rather, it is based on standards and evidence. If based on its deliberations, the commission requires additional evidence, the commission will reopen the hearing.
I missed the part about the building blocking the addition from that property to the north, so forget all that questions. Dave, you got any thoughts on landscape? Or anybody else here have any thoughts on landscape? Claire?
I agree with the approach. I think we could have a better outcome with some shifts in the species and the distribution of them, rather than having 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We could make it a little more naturalized, and then I think it's unlikely those arborvitae are ever going to reach 30 feet, so it'd be nice to supplement it with another evergreen taller tree like a magnolia or something. Fill in some of those gaps, or some type of cedar. That would be my suggestion. And then it nestle in to what is already pretty natural looking random space. So reduce the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 order, supplement with magnolias. You could even replace some of those arborvitaes with a magnolia. Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. The landscape approach for the screening seems reasonable. I think we can get a more positive impact and nestle it into that naturalized environment if we break up the spacing a little bit instead of going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 all along it. Randomize that a little bit, and then replace maybe a third of the arborvitaes with a taller evergreen tree like a magnolia or something like that, because I don't expect those arborvitaes to truly get to 30 feet.
I think I would second that thought. My concern about the magnolia would just be if there's any branch clearance issue, they're a little harder to shape. But I think maybe a eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana, like a native species. Just so if we're embracing the nature of the lot, if we just think about that as a hedgerow, that's almost like let's make it have a block of hollies, maybe a block of arborvitaes, and then a few blocks of taller species, then it feels like it's a wild buffer, and then you're not looking at the building beyond it. I feel like I would be comfortable. And then based on the section that was provided, which is very helpful, I think species that are about 30 feet would provide, in 5 to 10 years, they would provide the screening needed for the additional equipment. So I guess it's a conversation to have, like the long-term screening will be there. Immediate screening will be provided by the shorter louvers. Just consideration. And I know there are also color options on this, which I don't know. This is not our job to pick the color, but if we want to ask what the intent is, and that's something that can factor in the conversation.
Not it.
I think that oversteps our charge a little bit. Any other comments or anybody on the team? I think I'm wrestling with the height of the screen a little bit. Given the context of the site and the screening to the north, I could probably see past that, especially if the landscaping fills in as suggested by the members of the commission.
I think I have the same concern, especially with on the sheet that was provided, it shows that it allows airflow to the mechanical equipment. So I'm kind of curious why it's got to be lower and it can't be closer to that 5 feet or 4 feet. I know there's the structural component to take into account, but that would probably provide an additional screening.
I guess a question for the commission too would be, would we prefer a screen that is the right height but that is less opaque, if that gives them the airflow that they need? Is that in terms of like intent of the UDO? I wonder if that would be an option or something that would provide them the ventilation they need.
Still having trouble.
Sorry.
Thank you. Can you repeat that?
Yes, a question for the commission was whether we would prefer to see a screen height that abides by the requirements, but that has less opacity, because I know there is screening opacity requirement. If there was a screen that provided some visual screening, but that was more transparent, that allowed for more airflow, would that be more in line with the UDO while still satisfying the mechanical requirement? That would be up for debate. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I just don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
It does. I think the UDO calls for pretty much full screening, though, instead of like a perforated transparent screen. So then the question is, are we better off with a shorter, less obtrusive, solid parapet wall and seeing the tops of some equipment versus raising it up to 8 feet or however much taller it would need to get to screen it from standing down in that lower parking lot area, and it just being a taller, more solid wall on a very industrial site with a cell phone tower next to it and a bunch of other industrial stuff happening on it. So, yeah.
I think the color selection of the louver could probably help a lot. Matching that to whatever the equipment enclosures are painted would probably help that all kind of blend away, especially on cloudier days. I think to Chris's point, I'm less bothered with the context of the site being quite industrial. And views from any roadways are quite limited.
And unless there are any other comments about the actual screen height, do you think we can make the landscaping suggestions a condition, or would you want to see a new landscaping plan?
I think it can be a condition. Those are pretty simple changes. So the proposal would be replace 1/3 of the arborvitaes with a tall native evergreen tree. Vary the spacing along the entire buffer, so inconsistent spacing.
Do we need to define tall?
Mature height 50 feet. That'll get them to 30 in their average conditions. Right? Okay. Sorry, do I need to restate that?
If I may, I'd like to ask Mr. McDonald if he's got a draft. If not, we'll run through it again.
I do not have a draft, but I'm happy to assist.
We'll begin with replacing one of 3 arborvitaes as shown on the plans with, now, you should continue.
A native evergreen tree with mature height 50 feet. Minimum.
Okay. Do you want it to be a certain height at time of planting?
Whatever our requirement is,
Okay.
would be fine.
Don't know that there is one for standard shade trees, but I'm happy to look.
Like 2-inch caliper, 14 feet, something like that.
Bear with me.
12-foot minimum is great if we need to set it.
Yeah, for shade trees, I don't know that it's particularly common. They do reference a mature height and a crown spread, just the closest thing that we have, I think, in the code. So I think a mature height is probably sufficient.
Mature height's good. And then the last thing is to vary spacing of all plants along the length of it. So vary them from 5 to 15 foot on center.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to put that in language.
You could put something to the effect of a natural pattern, a naturalistic pattern,
Yeah.
mimicking a.
Naturalistic pattern. We just don't want a bunch of fence posts of trees running down there.
Okay.
Scramble it.
We don't deal super well with that level of subjectivity. Usually it's just prescribed as a number per linear foot. I realize that you want some randomness.
Then put it on center spacing 5 to 15 feet.
Okay.
And is
In a random pattern?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that works. I think that works.
Keegan, can you bring up the findings too?
Sure.
Yeah, I think I'll just go on record if we do see another case like this again. Just because there's equipment that needs circulation around it or that the screen might alter the structure that supports it would not typically be a good enough reason for us to allow a shorter screen. But given this site, given the topography changes, given the landscaping that we're going to have in place, and given just the industrial nature of this property, I think I can look past that. But I don't want to set a precedent that says the next time we see something like this, they look back at this case. So I just wanted to go on record saying that.
Thank you, Chris. And I think it's maybe worth noting that I think the cases we hear are on an individual basis, and one decision doesn't necessitate that we will necessarily follow that in the future. Do we need to reopen and check with the applicant that they are okay with the conditions we're proposing before we take a vote? Yeah. All right, we'll reopen the hearing. Based on our discussion, are you all okay with the proposed, our proposed language on approving?
Reading the language here now. Yes, we can commit to this language. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll bring this back to the table for a vote. Anybody like to make a motion with the conditions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions as described
By Keegan.
by Keegan.
If I may, would you like to review the condition once more?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to
And
read
we'll
it.
Tag team on this, Mr. McDonald?
Yeah. The applicant shall replace one of three arborvitaes as shown on the proposed landscape plan with a native evergreen tree with a mature height of 50 feet planted on center with spacing ranging from between 5 and 15 feet.
That is the motion.
Second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The commission's written decision will be adopted when the minutes of this meeting are adopted. And written decision will be provided to the applicant and other parties with the right to such notice following adoption of this decision. Thank you. Keegan, you ready to move on to the second case? Sure. All right, we'll now open the evidentiary hearing for DA 9/2025 on today's agenda. Keegan McDonald will introduce the items for this matter.
All right, thank you. So this is DA 9/2025. This is a property currently located at 0, 2310, and 2340 Compassionate Drive. So here you can see an aerial of the property. It's a little unique, rather large property that's looking to be redeveloped. There's sort of an unimproved private street, Compassionate Drive, that's shown running up the sort of flagpole section of the lot. And it has a mixture of zoning, so RX4 CU, R6, and then a portion is bisected by the SHOD 1 overlay, Special Highway Overlay District. So what they're proposing is a 200-unit apartment complex on the site. And the design alternate relates to the improvement of Compassionate Drive. So this is, again, a little unique in that they are proposing what amounts to sort of 3 unique cross-sections along Compassionate Drive as you move from south to north. And so you'll see in the agenda description, did my best to kind of describe the request for each applicable segment. So for the first segment, 0 to 710 feet, there's a set of requests. Then from 710 to 1340, and then for that last little end piece as well. So for the first segment, they are seeking design alternates to parking, the planting strip, the sidewalk, the maintenance strip, and utility placement easement on the western side of the cross-section, and then also to the parking, planting strip, and utility placement on the eastern side. So you can see the cross-section shown below.
And that is the proposed cross-section
This-
or a city standard section?
This is the proposed cross-section, yes. And then for the next 710 to approximately 1,340 feet, they are proposing a design alternate for parking on the eastern side of the cross-section. And then for that last segment, they're proposing design alternates for parking on the western side and the eastern side. And here are the design alternate findings for design alternates to the street cross-section requirements. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I did want to note that in your backup materials, there was a staff analysis produced by our transportation department. I will note that is a rather new communication tool we're using to just provide you all with a little bit of information from that group in advance of the meeting. And with that, Brandy Crawford from our transportation department also would like to present, if that's acceptable to the commission, so I'll invite her up.
And Brandy, may I swear you in? Sure. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brandy Crawford. I'm a senior transportation engineer with the City of Raleigh. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the staff memo or any general transportation questions for us.
Thank you very much.
Do you know what page in our packet that analysis is on?
It was a separate attachment.
Yes, it's actually a separate attachment within eScribe, so
So it's online.
it's online, that's right. And if need be, I'm happy to put it on a flash drive and pull it up at some point during the presentation.
It's more than this one pager at the end of the agenda package?
It was a single.
It's just a single page, that's right. I think it says staff analysis at the top.
Staff response?
Yes.
Staff response, excuse me, yes, that's right.
With that, thank you, Keegan. Thank you, Brandy. We'll hear from the applicant now. The applicant will present evidence and legal arguments in support of the request. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards.
Hey. Good evening. My name is Amy Kraut. I'm an attorney at Smith Anderson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Standard Communities. I do have 3 witnesses that I would like to go ahead and get sworn in, and 2 of them would be experts.
All right.
So.
Do this one at a time.
One at a time. Matt.
Oh, sure.
Before you begin, can you please state your name for the record, your address, and your relation to the case?
Okay, sure. Yes, my name is Matt Louder. I am a civil engineer for the project with Bowman Consulting Group. And what was the other question?
Your relation to the case.
I am the civil engineer for the project, yes.
And do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Do you want me to go ahead and have him sworn in as an expert now, or do it at the end?
You can proffer his
Okay.
expertise if you'd like.
Sure. Matt, can you just give a little bit more about your qualifications and experience?
Yeah, sure. I graduated from NC State in 1994 with a degree in civil engineering and have been practicing in the state of North Carolina for, hard to believe, 31 years now. So,
We'd like to proffer him as an expert in civil engineering.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Can you please state your name, address, in relation to the case, please?
Travis Fluitt, Transportation Engineer with Kimley Horn Associates, 421 Fayetteville Street, Suite 600, Raleigh, and Transportation Engineer.
Can you please spell your last name?
Fluitt, F-L-U-I-T-T.
Thank you. All right, and do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. And then really quick, Travis, will you give your experience and qualifications as a traffic engineer?
Yes. I have a master's degree in transportation engineering from the University of Texas at Austin. I'm a professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, and I've performed hundreds of traffic studies for public and private developments and projects throughout the state of North Carolina.
We'd like to tender Mr. Fluitt as an expert in traffic
So
engineering.
noted, thank you.
Thank you. And then Judd?
And can you please state your name, address, in relation to the case?
Sure. Judd Ellum, Standard Communities, we're the developer and applicant. Address is 1015 18th Street Northwest, Suite 601 in Washington, D.C. What was the last question?
Relation to the case.
So we're the developer and applicant.
All right.
Repeat his last name for me.
And could you repeat
Yeah,
your
I'll
last
go ahead
name?
and spell it. It's U-L-L-O-M.
And your first name is Joe.
Judd, J-U-D-D.
And Judd, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're asking for several design alternates to Section 8.5 of the UDO, and this is really going to allow us to improve and dedicate Compassionate Drive, which is a private road currently as public right-of-way, to facilitate the development of this 200-unit affordable housing complex off of Rock Quarry Road. As staff noted, this is a little bit of a quirky case, so I'm probably going to give a lot of background up front just to give the context surrounding, the improvement of Compassionate Drive and why we've broken it up into 3 cross sections. And again, here are just those design alternate standards. We would ask that our application, this presentation, and the submitted documents be entered into the record.
Noted.
Thank you. All right, so as staff noted, we do have kind of broken this out into 3 sets of requests. These requests are based off the multifamily street type, and there's different alternates for each section. 2 of the sections just ask for relief from the parking requirements of the multifamily street type. That's at the north of the site and the middle. And as a bit of foreshadowing, that kind of southern portion has the most alternates because we're dealing with a 50-foot area. And so the main talking point is going to be the sidewalks on both sides, which transportation noted in that one pager that they gave you. So as I mentioned, these next set of slides I'm going to move through pretty quickly. They're just to give the background of the history of the project and the rezoning, which is really important to this case as it relates to how we design Compassionate Drive. And it's going to emphasize how our requests meet the intent of UDO Section 8.5, how they don't compromise safety and are reasonable because of the physical environment and size of the site. So just as a bit of background, Standard Communities is a workforce affordable residential developer. They have 190 communities across the country and manage 27,000 units. Joyfield at Compassionate Drive, that's going to be in that middle parcel that's affected, is their first project in Raleigh, and it really is the result of a great partnership between Standard Communities and Compassionate Tabernacle of Faith, which is owning the property to the north. That we have that first set of design alternates for. Here is kind of how those parcels break down. The parcel in blue is the church's property, and again, we're just touching that kind of southeast corner to connect Compassionate Drive to what is Marblestone Way right here. The second portion in red is the Joy Field at Compassionate Drive site. That's where that 200-unit affordable housing complex we're going to be. And the third parcel is the kind of remaining piece of Compassionate Drive that's been platted since the 1960s as a 50-foot private right-of-way. The site history, we did a rezoning earlier this year. We rezoned 2340 Compassionate Drive to RX4 conditional use with 9 robust conditions regarding the development of the property. Really important into that kind of physical environment and like size and intensity of development. As part of this rezoning, there was significant public involvement. We had many neighbors come out from the Rockview and Granite Ridge subdivision to talk about, putting this apartment complex on this piece of property, and particularly the improvements to Compassionate Drive and the buffering and screening that they wanted to see, because right now Compassionate Drive is a private road. It's really not improved, and we're suggesting putting a full kind of publicly dedicated right-of-way there. Just in terms of project timeline, we like to do this to reorient. One of the big things about this case is we are subject to NCHFA timelines for funding. So we got zoned in the first quarter of this year. We had NCHFA administrative site review earlier this year, and we have to keep on a certain timeline to make sure we stay on the funding for the affordable piece of this project. For the current site plan, we just want to note that there are many factors that actually affect the developability of the main property at 2340 Compassionate Drive. We do have UDO provisions that require public right-of-way frontage and 2 access points, which is why we have to have this design alternate request. Compassionate Drive is a private road. We need it to be a public right-of-way. And to do that, we need a design alternate because, especially along that southern portion, there is no street type that is 50 foot in width. We also have NCHFA parking requirements. They require a certain amount of parking on the site. That's really important to kind of this middle section here, along with kind of topography and wetlands and streams that we have on this site. We're already pushing pretty far over for our developable area, which kind of limits the kind of buildable area we've got on the site. And just so you can see, these are the old maps. As a real estate attorney, I love a good old map that's recorded. So this just shows you that Compassionate Drive goes back to the 1960s. It's a platted private road. And you have this Rockview subdivision that's been there since the 1960s right here. And then about 30 years ago, they put in the Granite Quarry subdivision right here. So we are bound on both sides. We have neighbors to the east and we have neighbors to the west. So there's really no expanding the 50 foot on that southern property line. Looking at Compassionate Drive as it is today, this is a view from Rock Quarry into the site. Again, we only have 50 feet, and those fence lines give you a pretty good idea of how wide it is for that portion of it. And again, this is just kind of those aerials going from left to right. You have the kind of first portion of it from Rock Quarry up. The middle section is kind of the edge of that flag piece into what's going to be the affordable housing development site. And the north is that northern piece that connects from the church's property to Marblestone Way. Did want to quickly note one thing about the rezoning. We are in the process of concluding a traffic signal warrant analysis for the intersection of Compassionate Drive and Rock Quarry. This was a condition of our rezoning request. We had to do it. And this was just an image that we provided during the rezoning hearing of what it could look like. We have flipped a few things, but overall the goal of the improvement of Compassionate Drive is to decrease congestion and increase safety, while making it consistent with, Article 8.5 to provide adequate travel lanes for vehicles and pedestrians alike. And we'll have our traffic engineer come and testify a little bit about that in a moment. To kind of level set, we chose the multifamily street section because we had some initial feedback when we first submitted this request. We had a couple different street sections that we used for the entirety, and the recommendation from staff was to pick one and then do the design alternates off of that. Notably, if you don't include any parking on the multifamily street section and you're just looking at kind of the right-of-way, curb, required easements, maintenance strips, and sidewalk plantings, you're looking at 65 feet in width. And again, for that southern section, we only have 50 feet to work with. So we're working with what we've got, and we chose this one because the multifamily street section has the head-in parking, which we need to meet the NCHFA's parking requirements on the main parcel that's going to be developed as an affordable housing. So going through the design alternate requests one by one, we put just together this chart to orient. We're actually going to start from north and go south because kind of simplest to the most intricate. So for, let me see if I can undo that. So for this kind of northern portion, our design alternate requests are no parking on either side. Again, that's just a function of we chose the multifamily street section. Here in the middle, you have no parking just on the east side. And then to the southern part, we've differentiated between the west side where we're asking for no parking, a reduced planting area, no sidewalk, no maintenance easement, and no utility placement. And on the east side, no parking, a 5-foot planting area, and a reduced utility placement easement. What that looks like practically, we'll go through them all right here. So this is kind of the most northern part of the property that's on the church's property. We are meeting all the requirements of a multifamily street section except for putting parking on both sides. And as you can tell, it's a very limited space that we're working with. This is what the kind of construction drawing of that looks like. You have the maintenance easement, the sidewalk easement, the plantings, and the right-of-way. But just to kind of see it a little bit more practically as a cross-section, this is what that area will look like. And it's a major improvement from what's currently on the ground now, leading from Compassionate Drive into Marblestone Way. This is the kind of center section that's going to be on the property with the 200 affordable housing units. For this section, we are just asking for a single design alternate, and it's no parking along the eastern side of the property. We actually, in our original request, had parking on both sides because of those NCHFA parking requirements. We have to hit 280 parking spots for the affordable housing development, and having parking on both sides helped us. We got initial feedback from transportation staff that for safety purposes, they wanted to remove the parking on the eastern side. There also was no sidewalk on the eastern side originally. So based on staff feedback, we added the sidewalk back in, and we now have sidewalks on both sides of this portion. And we removed the parking on the eastern side of it. It was a major change because of the site restraints, because of the topography and buildable area that we're working with. We really had to squeeze it all in, but we were able to make that change because we understood kind of staff's concerns there. And how that's going to look on the ground, here's just that construction drawing. Maybe a little bit more practically, you can see we've got a 22-foot public right-of-way, head-in parking on the western side that will be by the apartment buildings, sidewalks on both sides, and those easements. So again, complying with everything for the multifamily street section except for that parking on the eastern side of the property line. The final section is our most limited section. This is the 50-foot area of Compassionate Drive that has been platted since the 1960s. On the western side of the center line, we are asking on both sides really for no parking. There's just not room, and we don't need it at that point. But reducing the planting areas from 6 feet to 5 feet. On the western side, removing the maintenance strip and the utility placement easement and the sidewalk. So this was a very thoughtful approach. We took a lot of time into it to remove the sidewalk on that western side, and we'll get into that in a second. And then on the eastern side, we are keeping the sidewalk there, but we're reducing the planting area from 6 feet to 5 feet and the utility placement easement from 5 feet to 3.5 feet. And again, removing that parking lane. What this looks like practically is here. It's about, we have 50 feet. We're at 48.5 feet with all of these improvements. You can see the 5-foot planting reduced from 6 feet on that eastern side, a 2.5-foot curb and gutter, the 22-foot public right-of-way, another 2.5-foot curb and gutter, a reduced 5-foot planting, 6-foot sidewalk, the maintenance easement, utility easement, and that gives us about 1.5 feet of extra area. And the reason that 1.5 feet of extra area is really important is because as a part of our rezoning process, that buffering and screening consistently came up from our neighbors and our meetings. We showed that on the slide. I have a rendering that I'd like to pass out, and it shows from one of our neighborhood meetings, the most recent one for our ASR design, the rendering that we had and showed them based on their significant concerns. Thank you. Essentially what this does, allows us to put plantings on the western side where we're only really impacting 2 parcels. And then on the eastern side that backs up to that Granite Ridge subdivision, we're having the sidewalk, the additional planting area, the maintenance area, and albeit that small remaining area where a fence or additional buffering could be put in, because we got 13 property owners to the back side of that. And one of their main requests throughout consistently the rezoning was to maintain some level of buffering to the extent that we could. We didn't include it in a rezoning condition, and we will be really honest about that because we only have 50 feet and we're very limited with what we would work with. We knew we would have to come before this commission for a design alternate, and we didn't want to overcommit to something before we got to this stage. So this is the overall kind of viewpoint of it. Locating the new sidewalk also allows pedestrians to continue using the established crossing pattern safely and efficiently. If you see here, there's a sidewalk on this side of Rock Quarry Road. There is not a sidewalk on the western side. And if we install a traffic signal, which is the plan, there will be a full traffic signal with crosswalks on all 4 sections, but there will still be no sidewalk to the western portion down Compassionate Drive. At this point, I would like to call up our civil engineer to talk more specifically about how we came to the decision to not put sidewalks on both sides and how these requests meet those 6 standards. You can just use that too.
Okay, perfect. Hello, and following up on Amy, she did a great job summarizing. We did come in looking at different alternatives for this, but working with staff, we have kind of tried to zero in on this street section, tried to make it consistent from top to bottom. I know the staff did mention pedestrian access and how they move through the site and through the whole area is very important. It's very important for us too. For instance, we did initially have parking on both sides for that section. They were worried about safety, so we did remove some of that parking. We did put sidewalk over there. So we've tried to work with staff throughout the process. I will note for pedestrian, I don't know if I can get to the site plan quickly. Here we go, sorry. So we are planning on making a transition for pedestrian access throughout the site in a safe manner. If you start at the north, Marblestone Way currently has 2 sidewalks on each side. And so this will be a full 4-way intersection. There'll be crosswalks in either direction. So it'll be just a normal, full pedestrian type intersection at the north. Coming south, there will be two sidewalk systems. One will be just a straight system going down on the east side. On the western side, there will be some parking, but it'll be the section that she was mentioning that will have parking, but with sidewalk, and the sidewalk will blend in with the sidewalks throughout the community. So there will be a lot of connectivity within the community as well. As you transition to the last 700 feet or so, we do have a crosswalk there to safely get the pedestrians from the eastern side back to the western side. And so with the site plan, you can see we have 2 points of access where they can cross once we do this, one up at Marblestone Way and one where we transition to that 50-foot wide section. We've also included with our site plan that we've submitted some wheel stops, or not wheel stops, but some type of traffic calming measures, wheel stops or whatnot, but just ways to make sure people are not going through the neighborhood quickly and just control the speed of traffic through the site and make sure we have a safe pedestrian crossing where we do have them proposed. As we get down into the 50-foot section, we do have a lot of constraints there. Obviously, the width of the existing parcel is our largest constraint. As we looked at this, we did look at a lot of alternatives, and we did want to consider a lot of the things that we did here from the rezoning, especially with buffering. And we did want to, in talking with the planning staff, we did want to be sure we did provide for the planting strips and as many measures as we could. So we looked at a way, how do we balance all these different things? And so this is how we came to this typical section. Again, it's the 22-foot public section, but we did adjust the planting width. So on either side, you'll see we have a 5-foot planting width instead of your typical 6-foot. But that was still giving us enough room to plant some trees and other things on either side of the section. We will have a 6-foot sidewalk on the eastern side. And we will have enough room for the maintenance easements beyond that. And that's where some of the utilities would go, power, natural gas, fiber, things like that. So it gives enough room for the constructability of this area as well. In addition, it gives us that 1.5 foot that she mentioned for the fence beyond that. So this is kind of what that will look like. I do know the staff did mention sidewalks on both sides, and we do understand their concern with that. But physically, we just really ran out of real estate to make that happen. We have 2 typical sections that we did sketch up for what that would look like if we followed the typical multifamily street section through here. That would be the 22-foot pavement, the curb and gutter, and even with 5-foot sidewalks, we ran out of room. So what we're showing here is, and it's maybe a little bit hard to read, but kind of this orange line here and this orange line that's a little faded back in there, that's our 50-foot width. And as you can see, the sidewalk, if we did that on this side, would be outside of that 50-foot right-of-way. So it would be into the adjacent properties. So we're probably 5 or 6 feet into their properties, and then we'd have to go beyond that for grading, easements, and everything that would go along with that. So that would be a big impact into that property. Likewise, so that would be if we had a grass strip on either side of the road. Likewise, we looked at an alternative where we put the sidewalk on the west side right on the back of curb, and what would that look like? Ooh, how do I clear this? Likewise, with that, we would have everything squeezed in so that the sidewalk would be right on that property line there. But that would not give us enough room for the constructability of it. It would basically, we would still need easements into those properties for grading, for the construction of these improvements. And it also would basically get rid of the planting strip that we're trying to have there to kind of make that soft transition into the neighborhood as best as possible. So as much as we would like to have sidewalk on both sides, just physically, we just don't have enough room there. So we just tried to find a way, what makes the most sense for where to put the sidewalk. And going back to Amy's point, We did choose to put the sidewalk on the east side for several reasons. One, it gives a straight path for the adjacent neighborhood. The kids from that neighborhood can come down straight path without crossing any roads down to where the school is on the southern side of the property. Likewise, you know where the aerial is for, oh, here we go. Let me clear this. So our sidewalk would come down on this eastern side of Compassionate to here. As you can see, there is an existing sidewalk on Rock Quarry Road, so that gives us that natural connection to that sidewalk now, being on that side of the road. Existing, there is a Hawk crossing in front of the school. It's off the screen, but basically that's a high visibility crossing for the kids. And so we wanted to be sure the kids are on that side of the road to minimize any type of crossings or safety issues towards Rock Quarry where the higher volumes of traffic would be. So that's the reason we chose the eastern side of the road instead of the western side of the road. Now, as Amy mentioned, we are looking at a signal here. When that happens, there will be a crosswalk here, and that would provide access, going east or west on Rock Quarry Road. But we will not have a sidewalk on this portion. We just have it on that one side. So those were the things we took under consideration as we were looking at how do we balance this typical section from north to south? How do we provide good continuity for the roadway, the traffic through this area? And how do we do a safe pedestrian route and protect them through this typical section? So that's kind of where we are now. And then going to the design alternate findings. So just to run through those real quick, number one is the approved design alternate is consistent with the intent of Article 8.5. We have tried to work within the existing typical sections that the city has for the multifamily. We did make small adjustments, but we tried to keep the intent and the plan of what they are to the extent practical based on the constraints we have. Again, most of the alternates we're asking for are parking related, other than that 50 feet where we just have a physical constraint that we cannot work around. Going to number two, the approved design alternate does not increase congestion or compromise safety. As I mentioned, we've tried to find the safest route for pedestrians through the neighborhood and through the street section. And as Travis can talk to in a minute, we are doing traffic studies, and that will kind of address some of the congestion for this, but we are providing a second point of access for the neighborhood, and in conjunction with the signal improvements, it will help the overall neighborhood as a whole. The third one is the alternate does not create additional maintenance responsibilities for the city. Again, we're talking about sidewalk, and where typical sections change, it's not going to increase maintenance. In fact, it would do a little bit of a reduction in sidewalks, so a little bit less maintenance. Number four is the approved design alternate has been designed and certified by a professional engineer, and that will certainly happen as we go through the design process with the city and approval process. The approved design alternate will not adversely impact stormwater collection and conveyance. Again, we're asking for a small reduction in the amount of parking and sidewalks, so very minimal impacts on stormwater. If anything, it'll be a little bit less impervious, so that would be a small decrease in the amount of stormwater runoff from the project. And finally, number six, the design alternate is deemed reasonable due to one or more of the following. I would say, given the existing physical environment, including but not limited to the following, compliance is not physically feasible. I would go to number two on that. Again, we're trying to keep a consistent, typical section from top to bottom as best we can. We don't want pavement widening and all this, going different directions. We try to keep it as consistent as possible. And then B, the burden of compliance is not reasonable given the size of the site or intensity of the development. And again, we are dealing with a 50-foot section that was been there from the 1960s. We just tried to find a way to make as consistent as we can, fitting in within the space that we've been given. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Amy.
At this point, I'm going to call up Travis Fluid, our traffic engineer, to talk a little bit more about the safety and the studies that we've done.
Matt and Amy stole most of my thunder, so I just wanted to hit real quick in response to the transportation staff comments about sidewalk on both sides. While sidewalk on both sides of the street would certainly be preferred, as Matt has shown, we just don't have room for it. Even if you could construct it, you'd be crammed in between the fence and the back of curb, and it wouldn't be a comfortable experience, and it wouldn't be well utilized. So we thought it better to provide one sidewalk on one side with appropriate buffering on both sides, make it a more comfortable experience. I think staff also, they expressed a desire to be able to get from Marblestone on the north down to Rock Quarry, and we have that. We have continuous sidewalk along the east side. If you're coming from Marblestone, you're going to be on the east side of the street, so you have continuous sidewalk all the way and don't have to cross over. They'd expressed a concern about unsignalized pedestrian crossings, and I think it's shown right here. We are, and as Matt mentioned, once you come up along the east side, once you get to the area where there are sidewalks on both sides and where you get to the apartments, we are providing a high visibility crosswalk. There'll be handicap ramps. Appropriate signage can be provided signaling, showing that there's a crossing there. So it's going to be a very safe crossing. This is not like somebody's got to Frogger their way across I-40. You know, it's a 22-lane street, a very low-speed roadway, so it should be a very safe crossing. Yeah, so in conclusion, it is my professional opinion that the design does not increase congestion or compromise safety. As Amy said, we are in coordination with city and NCDOT staff about a traffic signal at Compassionate and Rock Quarry. We are like on the 2-yard line, getting that finalized. Just a couple of things we need to verify, but very close on that. So it should be a very safe experience for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles.
Last but not least, I just want to call up Mr. Ullum. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about the neighbor concerns and why that was such a driving factor of, you know, not trying to put sidewalks in on both sides.
Again, Judd Ullum, Standard Communities. I'm here on behalf of Standard. We're very excited to bring this project forward. A new 100% affordable multifamily housing community that will deliver 200 high-quality apartments for Raleigh residents earning up to 60% of AMI. From the project's inception, we've known that the Compassionate Drive's 50-foot right-of-way width does not align with any of the city's existing UDO street profiles, which meant that from the outset that we had and needed some flexibility throughout the design process and that design solutions would be needed. We have worked closely and collaboratively with the transportation staff, and we sincerely appreciate their time and feedback and dedication to safety and good street design. As part of the rezoning process, we have also conducted extensive community engagement over the past year. We've hosted several community meetings, as Amy mentioned, with neighbors, including on December 12th, 2024, and this year on March 13th, June 25th, and July 7th, to ensure that we are hearing directly from the residents who are most affected by this project. And throughout those meetings, we consistently heard the same message, that the neighbors were concerned about how improvements to Compassionate Drive, which, as we've discussed, has remained private and undeveloped, might affect traffic and daily activity in front of their homes. And they asked for visual buffering through fencing, screening, and landscaping to maintain privacy and to reduce the perceived impact of the additional traffic. As you've seen, there's a portion of the ASR neighborhood meeting summary provided to the city after the meeting in June, and these two issues were clearly addressed. As part of that meeting, we even showed potential rendering the fencing, which Amy distributed along Compassionate Drive. We have intentionally designed fencing and landscaping buffers into our site plan to uphold those commitments and maintain the neighborhood compatibility. So while we fully understand staff's desire to have sidewalks on both sides of Compassionate Drive, after extensive design review and coordination with city staff, we believe that a single sidewalk on one side of the street, the east side in particular, achieves all the city's safety and accessibility goals while maintaining the community balance we committed to during rezoning. And as we will, we are a long-term owner-operator of our projects, and we therefore want to be a good neighbor both now and in the future. And as I hope we've demonstrated due to the existing width constraint of Compassionate Drive, which we have studied thoroughly over the last 12 months, full UDO standard design compliance, including sidewalk on both sides of the drive aisle, would prohibit us from honoring those express stated wishes of the neighborhood in regards to their concerns around screening and buffering. In addition, due to the grading involved with providing sidewalk on both sides of the street, it would require the removal of those neighbors' existing fences, as well as the additional off-site grading easements with each of those 13-plus neighbors that border Compassionate Drive. This is not the way we would want to start a relationship with the community by ignoring their wishes and unnecessarily burdening their private property. So in conclusion, we respectfully request the Commission's support to 4-hour design alternate requests, including the approval of the single sidewalk configuration along the east side of Compassionate Drive. Thank you.
With that, that concludes our presentation. We very much appreciate your time. We know this is a quirky one, but we believe we presented evidence to satisfy all 6 of these findings. If you have any questions about any specific findings, we're happy to provide more information or additional testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll ask if there are any members of the public that would like to speak. If so, please make your way to your podium. All right, hearing none, seeing none. Are there any questions from the commissioners for the applicant?
Got one. You can go ahead.
The one crossing at around the 710 mark, I don't see any of the safety measures on the plan that we're looking at in the package. Will you restate what those are?
I'm going to ask my question too along with that. I think it's just easier. I just wanted to get a feel for how much traffic do you anticipate? Total traffic, not just from the site, but total traffic. Yeah.
The second question was, what's the total traffic we think we'd anticipate that this road would have?
So to your question, we're providing high visibility crosswalk with handicap ramps on either side. And if necessary, in coordination with staff, if necessary, we can provide signage for a crosswalk as well.
Okay. What was the statement about the wheel stops or traffic calming, speed humps?
Yeah, I was having a little bit of brain freeze when I was up here. I was talking about speed bumps. For some reason, I was saying wheel stops, but no, we'll definitely have those interspersed throughout that section just to make sure traffic is calm through there. And we do have those shown within the site plan that's been submitted. And we can certainly work with staff for the final location.
And did you already review those options with the transportation staff?
We have looked at those. The plans are submitted, so there's back and forth with review, but it's currently under review right now.
Okay.
And then to the question about the projected daily volume, the development itself would generate about 900 daily trips. We would expect some traffic to and from the neighborhood to use this as well. I don't have a firm number on that, but it'd be several hundred. So I would guess the daily traffic volume to be somewhere in the 1 to maybe 2,000 vehicles a day at most, probably 1 to 1,500.
Okay, so we've got, what we're looking at in this submittal is the previous SPR submittal, and there is a new submittal in review now that has all these safety measures added to it.
Yes, what was shown on the site plan that we had in our presentation was recently submitted within the last few days.
Can we put that one back up?
Sorry, I keep flying back.
Yeah. Oh, mine's too fat.
So one crossing would be there, and then there will be basically four-way crossing there at this intersection, and I'll clear it so you can see.
And those are the high-vis
Yes.
stripes? Okay. And then where are the speed calming, traffic calming?
We have them interspersed, but basically we had one here, we have one here, and one here. Certainly, we can adjust those locations. That was just our proposed. Would not be surprised if we didn't need to put one here as well, just as you get to that first crossing, and probably should have included that with that submittal, but we certainly will be glad to add that. Let me clear this
Okay.
again so you can see.
So then that's getting me to a question for transportation. Have y'all looked at that or discussed this new suggestion? And does that mitigate any of your concerns?
So, so we have had some discussions around speed humps as a traffic calming opportunity here. I don't know that I've had a chance to review the second submittal yet and where those are proposed.
Brandy, while you're up here, I appreciate the communication from staff about concerns and then, possible mitigation to that. Do you have a suggestion kind of off the cuff of what you envision that cross-section could look like in order to achieve the 2 sidewalks, one on both sides?
Well, what was shown now, it looks like the road is not centered within the property where the section is narrower. So I'm curious if that was considered, if that would allow for sidewalk to fit on both sides.
I gotcha. Which would probably reduce either planting strips or utility easements or anything like that.
So I'm jumping.
It gets tight, right?
Yeah, I was trying to do math. Like, okay, so if you dropped, we need 6 feet for a sidewalk, we'd have to drop both planting strips to 4 feet, the drive aisles to 10 feet, and then use that last 1.5 feet to get a sidewalk in there,
I thought they
which seems awfully tight.
had an exhibit that kind of explained rather
Yeah.
well what they were working against.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess that's for discussion.
Yeah.
Have you all
It is-
considered narrower lanes as part of your review?
I'm sorry?
Have you considered narrower lanes as part of your review?
I don't know that we have specifically looked at going narrower than the 11 feet that's proposed, which is, I think, the standard section.
Yeah.
I could certainly reach out to our operations staff to ask if a smaller traveling would be something they would be comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what you're allowed to, or what's reasonable to ask of your interpretation just based on what you've seen, but if the concern is that uncontrolled crossing at the 710 line, do the speed control devices they're suggesting, are they moving in the right direction so that we could accept that as a safe crossing?
Can you clarify your question? What are you asking me if it's safe?
Yes, okay. So I'm accepting the argument that there's no room for a sidewalk on both sides. So that leaves us with the sidewalk on the east side, and what I'm hearing the crossing of concern is that one high-vis crossing at the 710 line. So if we say that is unsafe and that's the real concern, do the speed humps they're proposing to put in there mitigate your concern about the safety of that pedestrian crossing at the 710 line?
I would say that traffic calming elements such as speed humps that would slow down vehicular traffic would certainly improve the situation. But I would also say that a stop-controlled crossing would be a safer option for pedestrians. You have a stop-controlled opportunity at Rock Quarry and Compassionate. You have a stop-controlled opportunity at Marblestone and Compassionate.
Okay, then question back to the traffic engineer. Why can't we do that?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, before the
would that, I know, but I think just thinking about, like, would you have any preference of, like, the sidewalk being on the west side then? Is that more comfortable from a transportation standpoint?
I believe it was mentioned that there is potential for the nearby neighborhood to utilize the sidewalk and continue south towards Rock Quarry, where there are connections to destinations such as the school to the south. The site that's proposed here is also going to potentially generate pedestrian traffic as well that may also want to make that connection. So I would highlight, what side do we anticipate a higher pedestrian volume and using that north-south connection.
Yeah.
So, and this might be a question for somebody else, but are there sidewalks along Southgate Drive? That parallel road in the neighborhood?
It looked like on one side from.
Is that the street to the?
To the east, yeah.
Looks like there are sidewalks on one side from the aerial, unless you're not, yeah.
Okay.
Sidewalks on the west side there.
Is that a question for me or?
Maybe to the applicant, did you guys think about or look at what you expect as far as pedestrian foot traffic coming from that adjacent neighborhood? And how would that compare to the 200 units that are going to be on the site?
We haven't looked specifically at a pedestrian volume. The Hawk signal that's currently on Rock Quarry Road, has during the day hours, like from about 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., we counted 64 crossings of Rock Quarry Road. So that kind of gives you an order of magnitude. Most of them we assume, are going to and from the school, but that kind of gives you an order of magnitude of people that might be crossing. So 60 a day, even if it's 100 a day, that's probably a reasonable estimate. This site generates probably maybe a similar number of 200 apartments. You'd expect to generate about 10 to 15 pedestrians in the peak hours. And then, a similar, about 100 to 150 per day on that kind of order of magnitude. Let me go back.
Even with the school that close, you think the pedestrian traffic
it could be
would
a
that
little.
low?
It could be a little higher with the school right there. That is a magnet school, but I guess it's still kids here would still be zoned for that high school.
Okay.
And we were discussing, I don't think we have any concerns with if we did an all-way stop there, here when you enter the site. If we wanted to do a three-way stop, if staff was supportive of that, I think we're fine with that option. We typically don't use all-way stops as a traffic control measure or a traffic calming measure, but if we're using it to cross pedestrians, given the volume coming out of the apartments through here, the volumes may be balanced enough that could be appropriate treatment. And I don't think we have any concern with that if that satisfies staff.
I don't know that you can put an all-way stop on Rock Quarry Road, though, just given the magnitude of that.
Well, and that's, yeah.
Not-
Sorry, we're talking about stop controls at what is circled right now, not on Rock Quarry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like a plausible solution. No, I don't know that anybody's going to really pay attention to the stop sign at a mid-block.
Yeah.
Because this is where the apartments come in. Let me go
Right.
back to the. Yeah. So, whether it's here or if we did one here, I think we're okay with both of those options.
The one you circle north, plan north, is where you're saying the three-way stop, right?
Yeah, I think that would be an appropriate location, not, so,
Yeah, not at the
yeah.
bend, yeah.
So if it was there, I think we're certainly fine with doing a three-way stop there. And then we'd do pedestrian crossings on those three legs.
So in the submittal that is in our packet dated June 11th, 2025, that sidewalk is going down the west side of the road. Can you talk a little more about why you moved it from the west side to the east side?
I think just as we got further into the design and considerations and talking with the city and looking at where that hawk is and where the school is, it just kind of naturally tended for us to push it towards the east side. Just looking at the crossing and how that was going to be, we want to keep any crossings as far away from Rock Quarry as possible, so we didn't want to make that intersection any more of a pedestrian issue than we could help.
But would you agree, I think with the statement that Brandy made, that it's a safer cross if it happens at a controlled intersection like you're going to find at Rock Quarry. So there's going to be a stop sign for the people coming from Compassionate Drive out onto Rock Quarry, or anybody turning from Rock Quarry onto Compassionate Drive. They're going to be slowing down. They're going to see the pedestrians crossing at that point versus, I don't know how fast people are going to be going down Compassionate Drive, but people tend to speed.
Right.
And the visibility too, I think, is more at an intersection than somewhere in mid-block, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, visibility, and you kind of expect it to happen there
Yeah.
too, right? And so having that controlled crossing at Rock Quarry and at Marblestone seems to make more sense to me than having it mid-block. Keeping that sidewalk on the west side versus the east side. Go ahead and debate me on that, but I do have a couple other questions too, unless you want to address that, why you want to.
I think our kind of one comment to that, though we will consider it, is if we look here, like we're trying to really connect to that existing sidewalk right here that's already there where that Hawkeye is, and honoring existing kind of walking patterns, because all of the traffic is to the east side right now. It's not to the west side. I'd also say, just kind of the impact of, buffering and planting, putting it on that east side with the additional planting and buffering strip. Now we've got a significant area in between the actual roadway and our 13 homes to the eastern side, and that's something that we really heard as a concern from those neighbors, which I think is why, in addition to being able to connect to existing sidewalk and existing pedestrian patterns, just kind of the buffer area was important, because their fences are right up along that line, whereas on the western side, there's a little bit more give there with those properties.
And how tall is that fence going to be on the east side?
I think we don't have any specific designs. That was just a rendering, but 6 to 8 feet is typical.
It's drawn a lot taller.
6 to 8 feet is taller. That was just a rendering that our artist put together. So
Yeah,
but
and is there also going to be fence on the west side?
There's not anticipated to be a fence on the west side. Right now, there is not room for a fence, because as part of this, one of the standards is we can't, increase maintenance on the city, and city doesn't allow any fences or additional buffering in their right-of-way or planting areas. So we've got to work with the 50 feet that we've got.
So, just a clarification here. I'm looking at a section, and you have a tree on both sides. When you go to your site plan, you only have trees on one side. And if I look at the rendering, the sidewalk doesn't have a planting strip. So which one?
So that rendering was just an illustration prior to this plan being done.
Okay,
so that
so
was
you
just
will
to
have-
show the fact that they asked for a fence.
Okay.
Here is an example of what a fence could look like, because that, again, it's not supposed to be illustrative of what it is, but it's what we showed them.
Are you going with the fence? Is that something that
think-
you're doing?
I think the plan is we would
Yes.
like to go with a fence.
Yeah.
We want to make it work, because that's what we've kind of verbally committed to those neighbors.
That makes sense. And so in the plan, you have a planting strip, but in the latest site plan, it seemed like you didn't have trees on the, I guess, Plan East.
I'm going to
Is
let
that-
Matt answer that one,
Okay.
because he put that together.
So kind of hard to tell, I know, when we circled things, but we do have plantings shown here on this side. Those are larger trees that are shown, and I wish I could zoom in, but we do have a row of smaller trees shown on this side. Again, it's just a 5-foot area between the sidewalk and the back of curb, so typically do a little bit smaller trees there. So we did illustrate plantings on both sides. Again, I apologize, it's kind of hard to see, but it is in there.
And some of that is existing tree line.
Yellow line buffers.
That's just more.
Yeah, I very,
If you squint really
if I
hard and-
squint,
and-
I can see it.
If I could zoom in a little bit, I would with the screen.
And so the difference in size is because of what dimension? What's the difference in your
Again, on the
planting?
west side, we don't have sidewalks and the constraint of just a 5-foot impervious kind of constraint on either side of it, so we just showed larger trees there. On the east side, we do have just that 5-foot strip there, which is a little bit less than typical standard of 6 feet. And so we just kind of illustrated that with smaller, maybe understory trees or something a little bit smaller than what we would have on the west side. But the intent is to have landscaping on both sides.
Yeah. No, I guess my comment is that larger, more tree, potentially with a canopy, was much nicer for the walking that you're putting on that sidewalk. And so if you have smaller trees, you're not going to get potentially not going to get a canopy, or are you going to get?
With a smaller, I mean, these are understory trees, so you still have a canopy, and then they would have a fence there too, so it'll be like a little corridor they'll be walking through.
Okay.
Do you have a landscape plan generated yet that shows what those trees are proposed to be?
We do, as part of the submittal. We did not include it with this package, but not part of the plan submittal to the city, not part of the submittal for this. But there was a landscape plan included with that.
We may have it.
I have a question back about the crosswalk again.
Yes.
Sorry to go back to that,
No,
but
you're
just I know the traffic signal warrant analysis is in the works, but if that warrant is met, I guess Travis can come back up, yeah. I was about to ask if the signal warrant is met for the location, would then that not be the better location for the crosswalk to happen because you'll have a signalized location for pedestrian crossing?
Down at Rock Quarry?
Yeah,
Yes, there will be.
yeah.
Yes.
And then would the consideration be that the crossing happens at the intersection versus the mid-block that you're proposing?
Let me go. I don't know which way I'm.
I guess the question is would that change anything that you're proposing?
No, I don't think so. As Amy said, I don't know if I'm going the right way in the presentation. Sorry. This works. Yeah, so if we have the traffic signal here, we'll have the sidewalk coming down the east side. It'll connect to this sidewalk. If this is signalized, the existing hawk signal is going to go away, and we are going to add at least a crossing here. There's already a crossing there. We have not done a design yet. We'll have to coordinate with the city and DOT as to whether we do crossings here and here, because there's no landing on this corner. But at a minimum, we're going to have them here. So I think it's still appropriate to have the sidewalk on the east side of Compassionate tying into that existing sidewalk and those crossings to get over to the school.
Okay, thanks.
Going back to the landscaping for our group, it looks like they've got a combination of tulip poplars and Japanese zelkovas lining both sides of the street, both with 35-foot canopies.
Is that an older plan or?
It is,
Okay.
but that's the one that was in the packet.
Do
Matt,
you know
Matt,
what
does
you
that
changed it
does
to?
that sound accurate that you still got that combination of those two?
It does. We had a landscape architect design that. I was kind of doing a little bit off the cuff there based on what was illustrated. But yeah, the intent is definitely to have a treed section on both sides of the road.
Okay.
It just looks like the one, the section to the east has less trees than the section to the west, so, and it's where you're walking, so.
Right.
Just providing, making sure that the canopy does work for the east side, I think, would be nice.
Okay.
Can you also speak about lighting along Compassionate Drive? If we're thinking about visibility and just thinking pedestrian traffic and potentially high speed at night when there's, when people are coming home late and if people are crossing, like what's your plans for lighting for Compassionate Drive in this whole area?
Yes, so Compassionate Drive certainly will have street lights spaced appropriate through the section, as well as within the apartment complex itself. We'll have plenty of lighting. So I anticipate the whole section being appropriately lit.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more. I think you answered this, Amy, but can you walk me through again just why this street is getting dedicated instead of staying private?
Sure. So UDO requires all developments to have public right-of-way frontage in order to be developed. So anything that would be built on 2340 Compassionate Drive, this road would have to be dedicated as public right-of-way frontage. We also need 2 access points, which is why it connects both at Rock Quarry and into the neighborhood of on Marblestone Way. So that was a very big conversation at the rezoning because, this is a 10-acre vacant parcel in Raleigh that's almost impossible to find. We want things to be developed and be developed, with the neighbors in mind. And so we tried to do that. And so Compassionate won't stay a private street forever. So we're doing our best to design it with kind of long-standing legacy neighbors and concerns, because most people who are in the Rockview subdivision to the west and Granite Ridge, they've not just been there for a couple years, they've been there for decades. It's a very established community, which is why we worked so hard to kind of preserve those buffers and screening.
And is this 100% affordable?
It's 100% affordable at 60% AMI.
Okay, and can you tell us a little more about the time frame for deadlines on that financing, milestones as far as development goes?
Sure. We submitted the NCHFA administrative site review earlier this year for upcoming deadlines. I'm going to defer to Judd on that because he can speak more specifically to those, but they are a driver of affordable housing developments.
As Amy mentioned, we submitted our pre-application with NCHFA a few months ago, which is a prerequisite to be able to apply. This is a 4% bond round, so we are in the process of submitting now, actually, and that puts us on a track to have to close in 2026 due to the bond allocation. So as long as we're closing in 2026, we're good. That being said, we also have an outside closing date with the seller, with the church, and so right now we're trying to work to that date as closely as we can, which is in May of 2026.
So that's closing date. Does that mean you have to be moving dirt or anything by that point?
Soon after, hopefully, but not by May. Yeah.
Okay. And where are you in the ASR process right now?
So we have gone through the first round of ASR review. We've addressed the comments and we have resubmitted. So we're currently in on our second submittal.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? All right. Hearing none, or no additional questions or presentation of relevant facts, the commission will now close the hearing and bring the matter to the table. As a reminder, the commission is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented, the proposal meets the applicable standards. The decision cannot be based on personal preference of commission members. Rather, it is based on standards and evidence. If based on its deliberations, the commission requires additional evidence, the commission will reopen the hearing.
Could we bring up the findings again? The findings on the slide?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks. A lot to unpack.
Yeah. Man, my hang up, just general statement, the timing's a bit unfortunate because it seems like we're springing new ideas on transportation about safety stuff right here that may have potentially resolved this, or at least, have agreement with transportation.
Yeah.
So the awkward timing of a second submittal that's in review that is addressing some of the concerns that transportation stated is just an extra challenge that I wish did not exist. That said, while I'm riffing, I generally accept the hardships and the objectives to address the neighbor's concern. So I think the argument there's not room for a sidewalk on both sides is pretty fair without doing some really awkward squished up stuff. Taking the sidewalk down the east side, that also makes sense to me as it closes the loop and the tie-in to the existing crossing. So it all really, to me, boils down to where can you cross pedestrians safely to the east side sidewalk, and would like to hear what transportation thinks is a reasonable amount of safety, right? Because I think of speed bumps, that seems like it works pretty good. I see them in North Hills and Brentwood and Kentwood, and that slows everybody down. Yeah. That plus a high visibility crosswalk and some stop control, is that enough? I'm not comfortable saying it is or isn't, but it seems like it's really close. There's just like another round of conversation that needs to happen.
And I think the fact that things might change, or there's an opportunity for a signal and things might change, they may not change it if we go through with this, but there is a potential to just make it a lot more safer if it is happening at the signal, because you would eliminate the whole path of going east and then crossing and then coming back. You actually would cross on the west side of that intersection if that crosswalk's available, because that's where the sidewalk is for the school. The sidewalk is not on the east side, it's on the west side. For the school, it's on the west side. On the opposite side, yeah. So I think it eliminates a lot of that, if you will. But again, you would still need a mid-block crossing on Compassionate Drive for anybody that's on the east side coming from Marble Way or any of those properties. So you have to cross them over, but that can happen at that other stop, always stop, at the north end of the property. So I just feel like there is so much in process. Like, I agree with that. I mean, that it makes it harder to make a call.
Right, and what I'm thinking, if second submittal's already in, we're only 2 weeks away roughly from getting feedback and transportation have an opportunity to look at it in detail. I know this isn't what the applicant wants to hear, but like, can you wait till next month and have that conversation?
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we have enough information to feel comfortable moving forward with the submitted alternate without putting conditions that might conflict with transportation down the line? I think that's where we maybe need to discuss if that needs to be deferred or not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say no. I don't think we do. I mean, we should at least have the most current version of whatever site design has been submitted to be able to rule on, right? To see where that traffic calming is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at mid-block crossings anywhere around downtown, like, some people pay attention to them, some people don't. Say more often than not, people just blow through them even if there's people sitting there waiting to cross the street.
Yeah.
So that's a concern for me. And I would encourage the applicant to have more conversations with the city transportation staff about where they would like to see those crossings happen. If we can only have sidewalk down one side, which I agree, I don't think there's enough room to have sidewalk down both sides. To me, I would think that most of the foot traffic is going to be coming from these 200 units. And those 200 units are on the west side of the site. And it would make more sense to me to have that sidewalk on the west side and have the crossings happen at stop signs.
But then if the intent is to have the sidewalk on the east side in order to provide more planting space and buffer to the community, as what they've discussed with communities has been important, then I think as part of the submission packet, the landscape plan would be pretty crucial to be able to make sure that if that's going to be the pitch, that the sidewalk is on the east side because it's going to serve the community most, then it's, I think, the things we need are twofold, which is more safety on the working with transportation to make sure that's safe crossing for the unit, but also then what are you providing for the community fence spec and planting plan initially, just so that we can have the whole picture in order to justify the alternate. I would say that.
Totally agree. An accurate landscape plan with the actual trees that they envision, because with what's here, we've got trees on both sides of the street with 35-foot canopies. I don't know how all that's going to fit and work. So I don't know if these plants actually fit the condition or not. Yeah, I mean, I think what I saw on that cross section, the difference with the buffer from one side of the street to the other is like 8 feet. Is 8 feet really going to make a difference if you have the wider section, the wider pedestrian section on the west side versus the east side? Are the people, the property owners on the east side of this really going to know the difference between that extra 8 feet? That's for debate.
If that is in the record of a public engagement, I'd defer to them and see if they spoke specifically to that. We want more buffer.
I think it would also depend on the plant. If you have, a canopy tree on the other side of the street, then I think it's a benefit for this backyard. If we're really looking at more like the arborvitae or any kind of screening, you want it to be closer to them. So again, that's a bigger conversation that falls up on promises they made to the community. So.
I think it goes back to the point that we don't feel like we have enough information to make a decision at this point, knowing that things are in works, yeah.
I agree.
I'm going to reopen this and ask the applicant if they would like to seek a continuance based on our deliberations and come back to us either next month or the following month.
Yes, we would like to seek a continuance to next month, if possible. Yep.
We'll do that.
Can I add one more thing to that? Real quick?
Yes.
If they can provide more details on the lighting, I mean, I see some, but I don't see a whole lot in the submitted plan. So if there's an opportunity to provide more details of lighting along Compassionate Drive, that would be great. Yeah.
So I'm just going to do some active listening here. We want lighting plan, detailed landscaping plans, and then we'll have more conversations on the updated ASR on those kind of traffic calming safety measures and east versus west side.
Yeah.
And I think the location of the crossing.
Yeah.
But I also want to confirm, it sounds like the general consensus of this commission is you're okay with just sidewalk on one side.
Which side?
It's just not both sides, just one side, and then which side is the safest.
I think so, yeah.
That seems like
fair
a
to say.
consensus that we're
Yeah.
not going to be able to fit sidewalks in on both sides.
Thank you.
And meets the concerns of the neighbors.
And meets the,
We
yes.
acknowledge those.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we need to confirm that with transportation, or are we good on that one side versus two side thing?
I think that's-
As it's presented here, these arguments are sound.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. See you
Thank
next
you.
month.
Thank you.
Do I need to do anything to formally close that out? Or can we move on to the next agenda item?
You may move on to the next item. If I may, I just want to remind the commission that you skipped over the approval of the minutes from August.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to move to next.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you to the applicants for their presentations. Moving on, next item on the agenda, or returning to the first item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read through the minutes from the September hearing?
Yeah.
Any motions on approval or?
I'll move to
changes?
approve those minutes.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? All right, I believe that unless we have any updates from planning staff, that may conclude our hearing for the day.
Yeah, just have one update. Just want to put something on your radar. So for those who may remember, back earlier in the summer, I had referenced that we were going to work to revamp the Legacy Project program by creating better set of expectations for applicants, also a process by which they could actually submit proposals, they could be reviewed within a reasonable time frame. So I've been working on that with Commissioner Toms and Chair Gaskins, and I believe we'll have a outline, really the whole thing, but kind of functions like an outline. Should have that ready for you, hopefully at your second meeting in October. If need be, we could push to November, but just working through some internal discussions to make sure we've addressed any concerns from the attorneys, our finance group, et cetera, to make sure we're accounting for everything because it is a little new for us, but hope to have that brought to the full commission for discussion so we can hopefully effectuate it as soon as possible in the new year.
Yeah, man, thanks for leading that. That first draft looked real good. Nice work.
Yeah,
Where's your
so-
boss? I was giving you kudos.
Listening in on RTN.
And before we do leave, I want to thank Casey and everybody in the planning department for their help in putting together the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards this year. That went great. Had a great time. I think all the guests did as well.
I've heard
thank
a
y'all
lot
very
of
much.
positive feedback from attendees and everything. So I think you should feel really proud. And Casey, I don't know where she is. She did a great job. Yeah. Let the record stand.
Staying away
Casey
from
is
us this
amazing.
Yeah, great job. While we're talking about it and while it's fresh on our minds, did anybody get feedback on how they like that venue compared to the other venue, the Union Station?
Love it.
It was good.
I heard
Very good.
I heard a lot of positive feedback that felt more intimate and more appropriate for the size of the event. I think people were sitting at the tables. People were sitting. Yeah. There was
Right.
one thing. I think there's always little signs on the tables, and people always think it means reserved. So I think that was like, oh, that could be an easy thing that we don't put signs on the tables.
Yeah.
But everybody used the tables, and everybody loved the atmosphere and the scale. I think so.
I heard feedback both ways, but it was the majority, I think, liked the Dick's Chapel better than Union Station.
You could hear so much better in there.
Yeah.
I felt, yeah. For criticism for us, we need to mention all the award recipients' names next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we introduced
We
them.
talked about that
in
too.
the-
Yeah,
in
we
the
have
projects.
to announce the people and the names of the firms that
Yeah.
got that. Yeah, we did. I think we did like last time we tried to do that, and we did like on and off that time too, and this time too. Like I think some of us did it and some of us didn't.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Is
We
that
probably-
I guess
yeah.
that's all information provided on the application?
It's all on
It's in the application. Yeah, yeah. I remember thinking about that last time. I didn't think about it this time at all. Yeah. But we'll I mean, I don't know who's going to be the jury chair next time, but whoever it is, we'll make a note. Yeah.
Alrighty. With that, let's
But
meet.
Claire and Brooke and everyone helped organize the awards too. So I want to say great job, by the way. Yeah.
I didn't do much. I found the band. I thought they were good. The band.
Yeah. Band was good. Yeah. So.
With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where should go? Yes,
Yes, sort of.